Hi, I'm Karen Scharff, Executive Director of Citizen Action of New York, and I want to speak to you today about the direction of our great state. My remarks are a response to the first State of the State address by Governor Andrew Cuomo. I was glad to hear our new governor call for a restoration of our pride in New York State and his desire to remake our state into the progressive capital of the nation. I know as members of Citizen Action and as activists in your communities, you share my pride in the things that truly make New York great. We are proud to be New Yorkers because of what we built together: our world-class public universities, our public school system that's the second best in the country, our parks, our community colleges, our healthcare providers, and our public services have all made our state a good place to live and to work. I agreed with the governor's call for us to build a new New York for future generations, and I was very happy to hear him call for the reforms necessary to make our government responsive once again to the people of our state, including replacing our current pay-to-play campaign finance system with publicly financed, voter-owned elections. We at Citizen Action look forward to working with the governor to achieve that goal. But while I supported his goal of bringing back pride and stability to our state, I have strong concerns that the governor's approach to the state budget will harm New Yorkers and will harm New York State's future. Although he talked about becoming the progressive capital, when it comes to fiscal policy, I do not believe he advanced a progressive vision for New York. I'm concerned that we may end up putting the priorities of the wealthiest ahead of the needs of all New Yorkers. And I'm not alone with these concerns. I've heard from people who work in the fields of education, healthcare, social and economic justice, and community building that the governor seems to be headed toward proposing a budget that undermines the various systems and public structures that make New York a great place to live and raise our families. Why am I so concerned? Because the governor blamed what he called the special interests for overspending and creating the deficit. Are the millions of New Yorkers struggling with poverty, hunger, and sickness, the school children of our state, our college students, and the vast majority of working and middle-class New Yorkers who are simply trying to get by, are they all special interests? The governor is right that we face a serious budget deficit, but to get a full and accurate appraisal of the state, we must look at the real causes of that deficit. New York State's deficit is tied to the overall economic crisis facing our state and our country. Did investments in education, healthcare, and public services cause our state's economic decline? No. Our economic decline was caused by the national financial crisis brought on by Wall Street and the banks, the real special interests. And now, despite Wall Street making record profits, they want a state budget that protects their interests and wealth instead of the public good. A full and accurate appraisal of the state must take into account the widening income gaps in New York. Growing income inequality is destroying our economic future, and Governor Cuomo's budget priorities will only lead to more money being concentrated in the hands of the rich by taking that money away from New York's shrinking middle class. Did you know that the Fiscal Policy Institute found that over the last 3 decades, the income of the richest 1% of New Yorkers grew 36 times as fast as the rest of the population? And they still pay a much smaller percentage of their income in total taxes than the rest of us. Wall Street pay more than doubled, and now the richest 5% of New Yorkers receive nearly 1 out of every $2 that are received in wages and other income by New Yorkers. But for the rest of New Yorkers, here's what's happening. Median hourly wages have only gone up less than 1% over the last 2 decades. That's over that entire period. Median family income increased by less than 0.5% a year. The average real earnings of a young, college-educated worker actually fell by a whopping 14%. How would Governor Cuomo address these widening gaps? What is his plan to raise the standard of living for the middle class and young people entering the job market? How will he rejuvenate the upstate economy? His State of the State didn't answer these questions. In fact, his budget is expected to make matters worse. His budget is expected to slash programs and services for average New Yorkers and give tax breaks to the wealthy. That's right. He has said he will cut education and healthcare by billions of dollars and give a tax break to millionaires and the wealthiest 3% of New Yorkers. What will this mean? We will know what it means when the executive budget is released next week, but we know from the governor's State of the State what it's likely to mean. It's likely to mean the elimination of programs for students who are falling behind and large class sizes for all students. Reduced levels of care in hospitals and nursing homes. Thousands of layoffs at the state and local level, reducing the services provided to all New Yorkers and causing even more people to hit the unemployment lines. It's likely to mean undermining the very things that make New York great and that make us proud to be New Yorkers. Again, all of this while giving a tax break that goes only to the richest 3% of New Yorkers. And that tax cut comes on top of a federal tax windfall from the extension of the Bush-era tax cuts, a windfall worth more than $8 billion to New Yorkers making over $250,000 a year. Now, a group of wealthy Wall Street executives and New York City's largest landlords have joined together to promote these tax cuts for the wealthy and spending cuts for the rest of us. These are the special interests who are paying millions to get their agenda passed in Albany. At Citizen Action, we think this is wrong. It does not give New Yorkers a progressive vision or a future that will restore our pride in the Empire State. Yes, we have to economize, but we must continue to provide essential services, and we must create a budget that invests in New York State and New York's working families so that we can rebuild our economy. There is a way to do that. It involves sharing the burden and asking the wealthiest New Yorkers to pay their share of taxes, doing their part to rebuild our economy after they wrecked it. Here's how. 1, we should extend the current income tax rates on the wealthiest 3% of New Yorkers, those with incomes over $200,000. If the governor lets these tax rates expire, New York would lose $1 billion this year and over $4 billion next year. We cannot afford to take $1 billion out of our children's classrooms or our local hospitals or soup kitchens to give a tax break to the wealthy. In these fiscally difficult times, any proposal that will increase next year's budget deficit by nearly $5 billion is irresponsible. 2, we should add a top tax bracket specifically for millionaires. Adding just 1% to their tax rate would raise $1.4 billion for the state. 3, or we could recapture a portion of the $8 billion federal tax windfall to the wealthy from the extension of the Bush tax cuts. A surcharge that captures just half of their windfall would give the state $4 billion and help avoid the worst of the cuts. 4, we should reduce corporate welfare. It could be worth $1 billion or more. We currently give away over $8 billion a year in state and local tax breaks, with little evidence of job creation in return. We need to take a serious look at these programs, keep the ones that help struggling small businesses, and make better use of the money that's just going to CEO bonuses and corporate fat cats. These are just a few of the core elements of a progressive budget for New York, a budget that begins to address our inequitable tax system and our state's fiscal problems, while enabling the state to make the necessary investments in education, healthcare, and public services to serve as a catalyst to stronger, more prosperous communities. This approach prioritizes the needs of the middle class and the poor, not the desires of the wealthiest New Yorkers. This approach invests in our children, our people, and our communities, rather than divesting from our state. This approach makes it possible to put New York back on the course of greatness and to create the progressive New York that will make New Yorkers proud of our state once again, achieving the goal that Andrew Cuomo has laid out for all of us. There once was a governor who, when confronted by similar difficult fiscal challenges, took a different approach. It was Mario Cuomo, who dealt with deficits that were similar on a percentage basis, who said, quote, "A technically balanced budget that fails to meet the reasonable needs of the middle class and poor would be the emblem of hypocrisy." Mario Cuomo also said, and I quote, "Faced with hard facts, we have a number of choices. Those of us who are comfortable can choose to pretend that the problems don't exist. We can say that we have stretched our minds and wills as far as they will go. Or we can aim higher. We can try to do more. We can dare to be bolder and wiser." Well, we at Citizen Action are going to be urging our elected officials to try harder, aim higher, and be bolder and wiser in the weeks and months ahead. It's time to make the right choices for all New Yorkers. We hope that you'll join in this effort. We'll be emailing, calling you, knocking on your doors in the coming months to ask for your help. Please take action, join our events, and make your voice heard. The future of New York depends on it. Thank you.